Hi, Mystery Secret Searchers, episode 18, part 1, Sword and Shield, the Cairn of Lake St. Francis. Another cairn, another honor, brave soldier, faithful father. A fitting place for disguise, under stone magic lies. Protected by holy light, knights crusading fight. Leave and let lie, buried below, left to die. That's kind of a cryptic, scary rhyme. Who's the soldier? Who's the father? What is left under the stone? Magic. That could be our sword. The sword of the Clan MacLeod. Is it buried under the cairn at Lake St. Francis? We had to take another look. So off we went in the boat down the St. Lawrence River to Lake St. Francis. And there's Cairn Island. We're coming up on Cairn Island again. Why are we going there? Well, we believe we're going to find a big clue there. This is the Glengarry Cairn Island in Lake St. Francis on the St. Lawrence River. It's located just south of Lancaster and the opening of the Razor River. It was built in 1840 by the Glengarry Militia, the Highland Militia of Glengarry, to commemorate the services of a soldier named Sir John Colborne. Now, he's very famous in Upper Canada and even in Toronto. He laid out the plans for the city of Toronto, then called York. He was the commander of the militia during the 1837 Canadian Rebellion. Yes, there was a Canadian Rebellion when the Americans thought they might be able to sneak in and take over Canada. Of course, that didn't work out. As the cairn comes into view, and we've seen it before, we know it's a cone-shaped structure. It has a spiral staircase going up and around the outside right to the top. The discovery of bones on the island led to claims by the indigenous people that the island was actually a sacred native burial ground. So the island has been closed to the public. But recently they have been there with some construction crews trying to fix it up. They stopped the construction for a little bit because they were worried about the burial ground, but I think they're going to continue with it, and it may again be open to the public. But we had to get up there and have a look, so we decided to dock the boat and go up onto the cairn. There's a plaque that was placed at the bottom of the spiral staircase in 1840 in honor of Sir John Colborne. It was replaced in 1905 because it got kind of worn and the repairs had to be made to the cairn. In 1905, we think that maybe an artifact was found, but it was hidden again, and this could have been related to John MacLeod, although that's a little after his time. But maybe somebody else, some other protector. Are these protectors part of the Knights Templar? We know that they were well known for protecting things. So maybe they were involved. Sir John Colborne, very famous. He commanded Britain's Her Majesty's forces in Canada. And this cairn was built in honor of him. When you get up close to the cairn, you can actually read the plaque. And the plaque reads like this. This cairn was erected under the supervision of Lieutenant Colonel Louis Carmichael of the Imperial Army, then stationed in this district on particular service by the Highland Militia of Glengarry, which had aided in the suppression of the Canadian Rebellion of 1837-38, to commemorate the services of that distinguished soldier, Sir John Colborne, who is declared by the historian Napier to have been, quote, a man of singular talent for war, end quote, and who commanded Her Majesty's forces in Canada at that critical period. He had previously served with conspicuous merit throughout the Peninsular War and elsewhere, and had greatly distinguished himself at Waterloo when in command of the 52nd Regiment. He was Lieutenant Governor of Upper Canada from November 1828 to January 1836, Governor General of Canada in 1839, and afterwards became Field Marshal Lord Seaton, GCB. The cairn was repaired and this tablet erected in 1905. Now, just to the side in the rock, there's another etching, which was a very unusual one, a very curious one, that was done more recently. Seek the arrival of friends Helen and Jane. Explore the Alpha and the Omega, where the Red River runs, the Great Bethune. Now that etching, we have no idea what it means. But we are going to try to figure out and explore the significance of that. Now, just quickly, I want to mention also, we have another person that we mentioned back a few episodes, Lieutenant Colonel John MacDonald. And he seems to be connected to this as well. He was one of the militia soldiers involved in the Canadian Rebellion of 1837-1838. He may have served under John Colborne, and we think that he is related to maybe hiding something at the cairn here. He would have had access to the cairn. Here's the plaque to Lieutenant Colonel John MacDonald, and we know that he was friends with our John MacLeod. So John MacLeod may have given him the sword to hide at the cairn while the cairn was being built, and but of course it's not there anymore. The clues have led us elsewhere, so we have to figure out where else we're going to go. Okay, here we are. We've docked at Cairn Island, and we're going to get out of the boat and take a little walk. They're doing restoration work here, so we can't go through there. We have to go through the woods. See the cairn. I think it's the indigenous people that don't want us coming here because they're worried that we might disturb a burial ground, but I'm going to be very careful and not do that. And it looks like you can't really get too close to it. Oh, there's a little hole in the gate here. Through. Oh, that's good. Looks like they maybe stopped doing their... Well, there's a lot of work going on here. Wow, that's quite something. It's an amazing cairn that was built. Yes, and here's the plaque. There it is. Boy, it's very hard to read that plaque. We'll have to get a better shot of it somehow. There it is. This is the way leading up to the spiral steps of the cairn. Of course, we're not going to go up there because they're restoring this. You can see the rock is kind of falling apart here, but they're doing their best they can. It's a beautiful place, very historic. We'll see what we can do, finding out more information. As they clean up and excavate, we're wondering if they're going to come across one of those heirlooms of the MacLeods. I've got this hunch from the clues I read that maybe John MacLeod has hidden one of the heirlooms here. And that's what we're going to try to set out to find. Let's take a look at it from the other side. Wow, that's quite something. Okay, well, we don't want to cause too much problems. We don't want to disturb anything, so I think we'll go for now. So we'll see what else we can learn about the cairn. So there was nothing at the cairn that we found except the carving in the cairn. Seek the arrival of friends Helen and Jane. Explore the Alpha and the Omega, where the Red River runs, and it mentions the Great Bethune, where the Red River runs. Well, that's a clue that leads us to a church called St. Andrew's Church. This was built very early on in Glengarry. It is a United church. And the clues lead us here because when we look at these plaques, which I had filmed earlier, we have one called the Macmillan Emigration, and it mentions that these people came over on ships called the Friends, the Helen, and the Jane. Those are the names of the 3 boats, the 3 ships that these people came over. There's a plaque here to Duncan Cameron. He's a very famous person in this area, and it mentions in here that he was the manager of the Red River Department. That was in our clue, where the Red River runs. This is a plaque that was built to honor the church as being the Church of the United Empire Loyalists. Did John MacLeod enlist the help of the United Empire Loyalists to help hide the sword at St. Andrew's Church? Or was it someone else? Was someone else involved? Was the sword actually at the Cairn? Because the Cairn was in disrepair, did someone take the sword out of the Cairn? Did it take it out of its hiding place? Because they knew they were going to do all that work at the Cairn, and they didn't want it discovered. St. Andrew's Church. Oh, look at this. It says here that in 1806, Sir Alexander Mackenzie, the great Western explorer, and it says explore the Alpha and the Omega. This means the explorer. This is the explorer. Alexander Mackenzie. Oh no, that's another British Columbia link. He was another famous discoverer of things in British Columbia, including the Mackenzie River, just like Simon Fraser and David Thompson. And look at this statue. It says the arrival on it. This is a very famous United Empire Loyalist statue that signifies the arrival of the United Empire Loyalists into Upper Canada. And this, we came across this. This is the grave of John Bethune. He was the reverend or the minister of St. Andrew's Church. He is the great-grandfather, or is he the great-great-grandfather of Norman Bethune? Now, John Bethune also was a minister at Salem Church. Now, Salem Church is the church where we found the grave of Lady Caribou Cameron. There are so many connections throughout Glengarry. It is astonishing. Is it coincidence? I'm not sure. But the other interesting thing at St. Andrew's Church, because it's so old, there's the plaque to John Bethune on his grave marker. The other interesting thing is you have a lot of really old grave markers, some of them lying flat on the ground, as you can see in the picture, with markings like mother and father and initials of people. And if you follow the trail of these markers in the ground, it leads you to some very interesting ones with knights' crosses on them. And the knights' crosses could be significant of the Knights Templar again. And we're going to look a little closer at these grave markers, but you're going to see inscriptions on them. And some of the inscriptions have the Alpha and the Omega Greek symbols on them. And again, that's exactly what the etching, the carving, said at the Cairn. Look at that one. In thy presence is, and as you come around to the other side of it, you will see fullness of joy with the knight's cross on top of the tomb. And if we look at these two tombs in particular, this one has been dug out at the bottom. Someone has gone in, some kind of grave robber, and they've dug out the bottom of it. Now, were they looking for something? I think yes, because when we look at the top of these grave markers, they have the Alpha and the Omega symbols on them. A little hard to make out, but they have, both of those white crosses have an Alpha and an Omega symbol on them. So we knew we were following the clues correctly. We were getting very excited. What were we going to find? We were going to have to dig under and look under that tomb. I don't know. That's a little scary. But the clue at the Cairn has led us to St. Andrew's Church. Mystery Secret Searchers are looking. Please subscribe.